kicks off their first Sunday night major primetime show this weekend of 2025 as The White Lotus returns for season 3. For those who don't know, The White Lotus is a dark comedy anthology series following a kind of rotating A-list cast who play holidaymakers at the White Lotus chain of luxury resorts that often ends disastrously. But as we get kicked off here on another edition of What You Watching, here myself, Jared Leggett, and Kev Keen of Fan Club joining me as always. Kev, I want to ask, if you were to holiday in any TV show's world, where would it be and why would you pick there?
Ooh, that is a loaded question. Do I actually, I need to ask this question. I'm going to follow your question with another question. Do I have plot armor?
Sure, you can give yourself plot armor if you want.
Yeah, because I was kind of thinking for my childhood when I was like 10 or 11, all I wanted was for Pokemon to be real. So if I could go holiday in that world, like 10-year-old me would be like, yeah, fucking A, let's go.
What do you need plot armor in Pokemon? That nobody dies in Pokemon.
No. See, that's my safety one.
Old answer. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
that's my safety answer. If there was no plot armor and I was just there as me, and I could probably still get killed by a Pokemon, but still. If it was plot armor though, I don't know. I think maybe Game of Thrones. Spend some time in Winterfell might be nice.
You go to Winterfell.
I would go to Winterfell, yeah, because it's up near the wall too. I'd want to see the wall. King's Landing, it's too busy for me. I want somewhere a bit scenic.
Yeah. King's Landing's good for like, you want to go to King's Landing for like a weekend, like a stag party or something like that. You know what I mean? You might debauchery, like kind of, it's mad, it's wild.
You're there for the week, so you could probably get a trip to King's Landing in, maybe.
Yeah, it's like Vegas. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to go for a full week to Vegas, and you wouldn't go for a full week to King's Landing. Whereas, like, Winterfell, I don't know. There doesn't seem like a lot to do. Like, they seem
chill. And I got the direwolves up there, and
it's chill. They constantly talk about winter's coming. Essentially, the message there is we're all going to die of frostbite.
And I'm here for it, Ger.
Gonna run out of food and die of frostbite because it's terrible cold. Like literally, that's all they are. It's just a bunch of people. Terrible cold, isn't it? It's terrible cold. Yes, you live in Winterfell. You don't need to observe this. This is your normal. It's like fucking living in Alaska in the winter and being like, it's dark here, isn't it? It's getting dark early. Like, yes, that's the choice of life you made. I don't know. I'd like, is there anywhere else they'd be nice? I'd like to go to where's the place where Hightower? That looks
the High Gardens, is it?
High Garden, yeah. I'd love to go there. That seems like a really nice mix of like. There's not too much war there. There, like Jaime Lannister had a battle in the last season.
There's not too much war.
That's what you gotta judge.
I know.
You want just enough war to like justify the holiday, to say you've seen something. Do you know what I mean? Like you've lived the real, authentic experience, but you don't want to like die. So yeah, there's that too.
It's a tough question though, isn't it? Because a lot of the TV shows we love, they're kind of just set in the normal world.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go on. What's yours anyway?
I've got one where my one might be more messed up. You're going to be like, why were you judging me, you fucking weirdo? And I want to take you back and I want to talk about, because this got me thinking about HBO's next big primetime show of the year that's going to come out probably shortly after The White Lotus finishes its run. And this is so weird and maybe says a lot about me, but at the start of COVID, I got quite a lot of relief and solace from spending a lot of time in this world during kind of a pandemic situation. And I don't know why, but it hasn't gone away. And there's a fascination there. And I probably would need plot armor there because at the start of COVID, I played a lot of The Last of Us Part 2. And
I knew this was coming.
We have The Last of Us second series coming up. And like, I don't know. I love walking around. I've started playing Last of Us Part 1 again. And I love just walking around the world. I love just foraging. I don't know why. I love just foraging in like abandoned places and like looking for fucking screws, like, or not like
You
that.
gave me shit for winter.
Not in the King's Landing meaning. Not that way. Like looking for actual screws that can build like add-ons to my weapons. Like it just, I don't know, it just appeases. I think it appeases the part of me that's riddled with autism. Like I think that's me. Like I'm just like I want to build things. I'm like I want to go around in desolated places and build stuff with my hands and live that way. And like as well, just there's something to it where like. I'd imagine it's quite cathartic, to get out. You've had a shit day and you just get out like kind of a rage room. You get to just like, I don't want to murder people in general, which is always a bad start to a sentence. But I don't want to murder people in general. But like these are zombies who are going to kill me. So getting out with my fucking axe or my crossbow or something like that as well just would fucking be a nice way to like. You've had a tough day in work. Do you know what I mean? You're working the bar that they've made in The Last of Us Part 2.
Every day is a shit day in that world.
I don't think so. Not in Part 2. I think Part 2 seems like quite a nice time. Like if you just stay in Joel's area, but every day just kind of go out. If you stay in like the peaceful part, like where Tommy and all live, like I think that's a nice
Fuck Tommy, by the
vibe. Shout out, Kev. We miss you. He's still alive. He's just... oh, really, really old school reference. But yeah, like it just seems like a chill time, and you just get to go out and like every now and then just go out for a little forage and just like find screws. Apparently, is what I'm looking for. I don't know.
Kill mushroom zombies and find screws. It's your idea of a holiday.
It sounds like my next tattoo.
Sounds like the name of your first album.
The Mushroom Zombies is a great name for a band.
It is. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, I'll be up for that. Guys, we're here to talk about the TV we've been watching, and our mission statement on What You're Watching is to give you new shows to watch and chat about some of the ones you may be already watching. So by default, as a rule, this is a no spoiler show. However, this week, Invincible came back, and if you've listened to us chatting on the Page 180 feed for a while, you'll know we love Invincible, and we spoke about the second half of Part 2 last year. So we are going to, at the end of the podcast, and we'll signpost it well in advance as well, so you'll know when it's coming. We are going to have a spoilery chat about Invincible Season 3, but like I said, the rest of it is just to find shows to get you in the mood. And like if you're looking for something right now, although all the TV shows seem to be coming back at the same time, so it's probably trying to find something to squeeze in. But just talk through some of the things that we've been watching as we go on. And Kev, I don't want to start this show, miring you in scandal as like, you prepare for another hot fan club summer, you know what I mean? Hopefully, who knows what's on the horizon in the future, maybe gigs, maybe albums, maybe a lot of stuff. So I don't mean to scandalize you or judge you or anything, but I'm gonna, because
go on.
I was full sure when I sent you a meme a couple of months back that I'm like, Kev is going to fucking love this, because I don't think I've ever talked to him about this show, but if there's one thing I know Kev, and this is a Kev show completely. And you got back to me saying, I've never actually seen that show. And I'm not going to lie, my respect for you died a little bit on that day.
Jared, there's a lot of shows that you recommend me that I haven't seen, and I'm like, oh yeah, you were actually right about that. Sorry about that.
But I was also like a bit jealous of you too, because it's such a good show. The meme I sent was the cast of Severance, Apple TV's show, which came back recently for a second season. It's about halfway through, 4 episodes. I think there's 8 total. And it was them in New York kind of doing a bit of, they were acting out in their roles in like a train station or whatever for people as they were kind of walking by. It was really cool because like it's a star-studded cast. It's like Patricia Arquette, you've got Joe Turturro, you've got Adam Scott in the lead role. Like it's fucking A-listers just in a New York fucking train station just acting their parts. Fantastic stuff. You've never seen Severance, because this is like This ticks so many of the boxes I know for a show you love. What happened there?
I don't know because I had Apple TV for like the longest time and I just never got around to it. There's like I'm probably just watching other stuff though as well.
Mm,
Um, but it's one I've always been kind of meaning to. And then when all the hype for this one came around again, I was like, I'm gonna save season two till it finishes and watch it all together. I'm
okay.
gonna binge the whole thing.
Okay. I'm going to present the case for why that's not what you should do. Now, obviously, you don't have a choice. You have to binge it in some form because you've missed the first 12 episodes,
And I
including
know
season one.
nothing about it.
Okay. Um, I you have to binge somewhat to catch up, but I think if I was you, I would start binging sooner because not only is Severance a really good TV show, and the first season, which was in 2022, um, was my favorite TV show of the year. And with how they've started season two, and especially like The Bear would be the only show that I'd say would have rivaled it for this kind of title. But The Bear obviously had a bit of a down season last year with
Mm,
season three. And with how Severance has started season two, I don't even think this is even a debate or a close, at least for me and my taste, run race and saying that this is the best show on television. And it's by a distance. This is fan fucking tastic. And the argument against, and I hear and I get it, is that a lot of people are like, look, I don't have Apple TV. Like they don't do a lot of content in the same
yeah.
way Netflix will give you stuff. Like now, obviously, we've got wrestling and stuff on Netflix as well, or even Amazon Prime. Like even if there's not, they tend to come in flurries of new content, but even then, there's a lot of cool alternative content or older content on it
A
as
lot of
well to
older
keep you
good
ticking
movies on
over.
that as well, yeah.
Yeah. And Apple TV obviously are more, they curate their content and they're much more um picky in their release schedule. Very kind of similar, like a streaming version. I know HBO has Max, but like HBO is very similar in that they have one or two shows maximum at a time that are big shows, and they just build for the period that these are on. They build the entire station around them. Apple TV is kind of a streaming version of that. Um, and I get the argument against Apple TV. They do produce a lot of good content. It's all very shiny, very slick. They get A-list characters, but the thing with Apple TV is a lot of the shows can be a bit vanilla, a bit soulless, a bit bland. They can be interesting and have interesting concepts. And Silo is one of those shows that it looks and presents like one of the best TV shows you've ever seen. Like if you just looked
Mm.
at 5 minutes of it, you're like, holy shit, I need to watch this show. But then when the experience of a week to week is can be tough to connect to the characters. The highs are really high and so on. But again, it just doesn't necessarily click in the way the top TV shows do. And then there are shows like Ted Lasso, which I think really connected and surprised people. That kind of won people over to Apple TV. But Severance is their pièce de resistance because it has everything in this. And why I think you'd love it is it has. Were you a big Lost guy?
Yes.
Yes.
Loved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was the Severance creator, who is like a noted obsessive Lost fan. I'm frantically trying to find his name here. I can't remember. Sorry, it just escapes me. Ben Stiller is actually heavily involved in this as well. Like he directs most of the episodes.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And Dan Erickson, who's an unknown creator, this is his first major project. He essentially just bumped into Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller's like, holy fucking shit. And Ben Stiller in himself as director, he doesn't really star. But he is kind of making a case for, am I the best director alive today? Like, so it looks fantastic. It looks lush.
He's
It is,
incredible at directing though. Like
yeah,
Walter Mitty was one of my favorite movies of the year. What that year it came out was it 2016 or 17 when that came out?
yes.
No, actually, it might even been earlier than that. But it's phenomenal and it looks gorgeous, like as well.
And that is it. It is gorgeous. It's the type of show you're like, it's very minimalist in one sense because kind of the purpose of the show is um essentially making a workplace comedy into Lost. It's the pitch of
Okay.
Severance. Okay. It's a mystery box show where everything is a mystery, but the general concept is You know, when you work in these corporate style jobs and it's all like, we're a family, you guys, we're a family, you know, everyone's a family and we care, and they do like little incentives for people and stuff like that, and the incentives are kind of stupid, but like, you know, it's like, don't pay me more wages, or don't pay me in pizza lunches with my
Yeah.
team, pay me fucking money, you know what I mean? It's that kind of vibe that it's satirizing, but it's also like, it's also kind of the idea and the concept of it plays with the concept of a work-life balance, of wanting to separate yourself from your work and have two completely separate lives. And that they take that literally. So the severance that they speak of is a procedure that employees at this major corporation, who we don't know what they actually do, and there's loads of delicious clues that are very like lost in that they're totally random bits where you're like, how the fuck does that play into it? Like, there's goats involved in this somehow, but we've no idea why. Yeah, do you see what I mean about Lost? Where you're like, what do the goats do? But also, it's very grounded in this kind of funny workplace satire. But these people have a procedure where they go through, and when they go into work, they've agreed to this procedure. They go down the lift, and as they go down the lift, they become what's called their innie. And that's a person who's only exists inside work, and they've decided to split their brain into where they can't remember what happens in work, and then they go up the lift and they become their outie and they live their normal life, and that's the person who they've always been, but they've no idea what they do in work. And we kind of learn through getting to know the characters that they all have their various reasons. For example, one major character has had a big death in his life and he wants to kind of get away from that permanent state of grief that he's in, for example. So everyone has their reasons. Some you know, some you don't, and that's part of the mystery as well that just kind of unravels, and it's very character-based drama. And it's fucking hilarious on one level because, again, you have that comedic DNA in Ben Stiller, and Adam Scott is the lead character. So, and then you have Zach Cherry in it as well. People will know from obviously Spider-Man, and you'll know him. He's that guy from
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And he's fucking hilarious in it. Then you've got Joe Turturro in it, who's kind of this. When you meet him, he's a really uptight kind of. He's the guy in the office who buys into everything that they say and just believes, and he's a company man. And then you've got Helly, who is kind of the avatar character for the world. She's not the main character, Adam Scott is, but she's kind of the avatar character for the world, who we meet her as she's first severed, and she starts kind of being like, I hate this, I don't want to do this, but she can't seem to escape from that world. And it unravels there. And then it becomes about like, who is this corporation? What do they do? Is it a bit of a cult? What's going on? Why are there goats? And it is a Lost style show in that it reminds me so much of Lost in that it makes a mystery accessible. But what makes it work so perfectly is Dan Erickson has spoken about how he's learned the lessons from Lost, in that he's like, they didn't know what they were doing in the end. Like, they didn't know what the mystery was and what they were building towards. And they cobbled it together, and you can argue whether it all worked or not. And I know everyone has their opinions. You're not going to change how anyone individually feels. But at no point in this show do you not feel like it's all building towards something. And the reason that I wouldn't binge it is because you have that week-to-week Lost experience of then after the episode breaking down every little clue that's in the show. And the show is one of those that's going to reward the more you watch it, because there's little tiny details that show up in episode 2 of season 1. And it doesn't have to be even a line someone said or a bit of dialogue. It can be a fucking noise in the background. And then you learn in the most recent episode, I'm not saying this is a real example, but like, you learn in this season that noise actually means this and blah, blah, blah. There's a scene where there's like in this season, there's a juxtaposition of scenes where we see characters going down the lift and becoming their innie. And that is later on then kind of when we first meet like kind of our characters and they come down the lift for the first time. And when you actually put the two scenes together, which obviously people have done on social media, you find that even the timing syncs correctly, like to when people are moving from one scene and the other. If you play them side by side, it works to the split second. second. It is a show made with that level of exactitude and precision that it's just delicious. But the plot twists, and the way it kind of teases you is phenomenal. But also what I love about it is it's really not fucking around. There was long periods of loss, and again, it's a very different type of TV show. It was a network TV show in a time where there was 22 episodes every
Yeah.
season and so on. So there has to be a lot of filler there and buffering out the mystery. This is not fucking around. You get to it, like the most recent episode is probably the most memorable of the season so far, and it kind of picked on things where you're like, that's gonna, and it's only the midway point through the second season, and you're like, if your normal TV brain is mapping it out, and you're gonna be like, oh, that's obviously what this season's mystery is gonna be, and that's how they're gonna play it out over the course of the 8 episodes, and it's just like, boom, no twist, there you go, that's this, boom, boom, boom. They're not fucking around, but the thing with the mystery is that as it unravels, you learn something new and it just springs forward 10 more questions, but it's not in a frustrating way at all. You want to ask the questions. You want to go straight onto TikTok. You want to be like, what the fuck is going on? What does it all mean? How can you put it together? And so on. And you feel like nobody is going to, like, you feel like a lot of people with their theories are close, but you also feel like you've probably gotten close to one aspect of it, but there's so many different aspects here that nobody is going to be able to get this. But it does it in the concept of a normal workplace kind of comedy drama. Like, it's not this big fantastical world with smoke monsters and a deserted island and strange people. It's people in suits in a mundane job that they don't fully understand why they're doing it. Remember in WandaVision, Vision made a joke that was kind of a workplace satire joke where he's like, yeah, but what do we actually do? And nobody can really tell him. Like, that's kind of the vibe here where everyone's just like, I don't know what we do. I don't really care, but like, I want to win a waffle party at the end of the week, and I only get that if I finish that. You know what I mean? It's that kind of vibe. Christopher Walken is in this. Like, there's so many like A-list characters in this, even as cameos, and like Patricia Arquette is in this as well, and she plays a big role in it. And there's some absolute breakout stars in it as well. It is the best show on television by a distance. It is the show that just keeps on giving. It is the type of show that, again, I feel really fucking lucky. Like, I will build my Friday around it when they drop a new episode, but I'm not going to watch it too early or anything because I want to watch it right. I want to watch it in the mood. And every episode just feels so delicious and a treat. Like, they're giving me so much insight into what's actually going on. They're not holding back on the mystery. But then I almost want to wait a week. Like, I wouldn't want to binge this because I want to wait a week to process what I've just seen, to go through all the theories, to go on Reddit, to go on TikTok, to kind of go through everything and then build up for the new episode. If you are missing Severance, I get it. I get the aversion to Apple TV. This alone is worth your Apple TV subscription money. It is fantastic. And I would recommend, yeah, look, you got to catch up, so you got to binge it, but binge it now and enjoy the last few weeks of the Severance experience as everyone is enjoying it, because it is, like, again, very similar to Game of Thrones we spoke about. Game of Thrones was a week-long experience because there was the watching of it, and then there's the talking about it with your mates, there's the theorizing, there's the watching YouTube videos, there's the TikToks, there's this, there's the podcast, there's that. It is an immersive experience, and it is fantastic. And it's Adam Scott doing drama as well. And you're just like, how is this so fucking good? I don't know. This feels like it's no right to be this good, but it is by far the best show on television, right? It is fantastic. And you would love it.
I'm sold. I mean, I have to watch it now. Jesus.
Bit heavy and all.
I mean, I did get Apple TV back, and I've been watching Mythic Quest as well on that.
Yes, so we will be discussing. We've also
discussing that as well, yeah.
Going to be talking some Invincible as well, with spoilers. Like I said, we've got Your Friendly Neighbourhood Spider-Man is on the agenda. But Kev, I want to throw to you because another thing I know you've been watching and binging is we got some very sad news that obviously legendary and arguably one of the most influential directors of our time in David Lynch passed away recently.
Yeah.
And that's
Huge
someone that
fan.
I know, yeah, his work means a lot to you, and you've been binging a lot of Twin Peaks as a result of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I think I watch Twin Peaks nearly every year now at some point, but it was just another
Yeah.
excuse to watch it after he passed. Um, I went to see a Razorhead there on Saturday because the Lighthouse are doing like a big David Lynch month. So that
Yes.
was his first ever movie. And it's definitely one that I don't know, it's a weird one to recommend to people as their first Lynch experience, even though it's his first film, because it's very out there. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, Twin Peaks, if you've not seen it, um it's it's kind of, I suppose, the first like from the premise of what Severance is, it's it's kind of it's the first ever prestige TV show, I think, that was on television,
Mm.
where you had David Lynch, who had just come off like doing Dune, I think, as well, and what else did he do before that as well? He would have done the Elephant Man
Mulholland Drive.
and Blue Velvet before that too.
Yeah.
So it was him, and then Mark Frost, who did Hill Street Blues, which is a procedural crime drama, and then you got David Lynch's absolute insane surrealism. And they put together, it's like they're like this odd couple that work, where they, it's like they put a soap opera and a crime procedural show together, and then made it about paranormal mystery, centered around the death of a girl that they're trying to figure out who murdered her. So who murdered Laura Palmer is the entire premise of the show, but it just goes fucking out there, man. David Lynch is just, he's a master at kind of conveying, I suppose, what you like, dreams, I suppose, and like the kind of mad shit you would see in your dream that you kind of wake up and like, what the hell was that about? But he'll put stuff like that in, um as just another, what is the best way to put this? It's like just another nuance, I suppose, on top of a really good crime procedural show, and just make it weird as fuck as well. But yeah, he's a master, man, and I think the world is just absolutely devastated, I think, from his loss, especially with like the film world more so than anything else, because
Yeah.
there's no one else like him, and he's your favorite director's director. That's
Yes.
that's who Lynch is. Um, and yeah, his legacy says it all. So yeah, man, fucking devastated about Lynch, but any excuse to watch Twin Peaks, and if you've not seen it, it's a weird as hell show. It's goofy, it's disturbing, and it's just, I just find it a joy to watch. It's one of my kind of comfort shows.
Mm.
And yeah, it's I can't recommend it enough if you've not seen it. It's not for everybody. I get that, but neither was David Lynch. So yeah, do what you may.
I'm putting a link into the show notes. It was a piece that was written in the New York Times by one of David Lynch's kind of core caliber or what's the word,
Yeah,
collaborators, yes.
collaborator.
Kyle MacLachlan, he was star of Twin Peaks, doing like, he's, if Lynch was in it, he's there, you know what I mean?
Yep.
He put a piece called "How David Lynch Invented Me," and it's a really just, it's both a testament to David Lynch's impact on, cinema and obviously TV through like Twin Peaks, but like, um it's just also just, you can feel the pain and closeness, and also the
Yeah.
gratitude and indebtedness that he feels as well. um it's tough to kind of surmise the impact of David Lynch on, on a bigger picture scale, on a grander scale, but in terms of you, how do you feel the Lynch, like, influenced you, or like, what do you think he brought, like, to your life? Where is the piece of these artists that impact us in such a way? And I feel that Lynch, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that Lynch is one of these artists to you from hearing you speak. It's like, I don't know who I'd be if I didn't have that person's work in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
He's kind of like Bowie to me of the music industry.
yeah, yeah,
A
that's
little
great.
bit, where he's just so outside the box that it'll make you just think about life really in general in a different way, watching
Mm,
his movies, and the way he interprets dreams and puts them on screen, and makes you feel something, like, when you see like maybe a painting for the first time that really makes you be like, oh fuck, I get art now a little bit.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a feeling of that was insane and I need to process this for a week or two to really um kind of figure out what I thought of it. And it usually comes to something positive or just makes you think about something in life just differently and the way you
Yeah.
look at life differently as well. Um, and that's what I love about his films because like even with Twin Peaks or any of his movies, the majority of them leave more questions than answers. But that is nearly one of my favorite things that like what was it? Twin Peaks aired in like 1990, I think it was. Um, and it's now like 35 years later, and there's still new theories being thrown about by fans, and like there's still little bits being discovered. The more you watch this show and repeated
Mm.
watches, it gets better and better and better. And I think that's what he will leave as his biggest legacy of all of his films. People will still find something new, and there'll always be a discussion going on, and he'll never die because of that. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel about David Lynch.
That's very true, very, very true. And I'll often talk on this feed about how I have a love and Severance as a part is kind of like that as well, of weirdness in, you know, cinema and TV and just surrealism as like you said. Um and David Lynch normalized that. He made it okay. He made it a thing. Because again, I think there was very much, you look kind of at old TV shows, and what I love is stories. Like if you think about stuff like Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's a really good story at kind of illustrating the industry's approach to, you are a star, therefore you win, but when you get old, you become a person who loses, and then you're the
Mm,
bad guy, and then you know what I mean. And there was a cycle of television, and it was based off network executives kind of saying what worked, and there are certain shows and auteurs, and David Lynch is one of them, and then I think The Sopranos is kind of the next, that made us think about the art form, and that's why we have shows like we have today. That's why it's interesting. It wouldn't be interesting if we're like, give us your like hot takes on the latest episode of Bonanza. Like it's like, yeah,
yeah.
the Cowboys are good, the Indians are bad. Like fuck, like it's like, but
Like I don't think we'd have shows like The X-Files that led to Breaking Bad with Vince Gilligan as
yes,
well without Twin Peaks.
yes,
That's its huge influential legacy of those kind of prestige crime shows really
yeah.
as well.
But
And
we wouldn't be talking about, like, we wouldn't have this podcast without that. We wouldn't think about TV as this vessel for that kind of art. You know
mm,
what I mean? And that kind of storytelling that existed maybe within novels that you kind of had to go into specialist bookstores and kind of
yeah,
ask for and find and be told by your friends and so on, back in the day. But like I said, the likes of Lynch made it into something where it's like, this can be something totally different. This can be
yeah.
something that we can just turn it on its head, and we're very thankful to that, and may rest in peace. But like you said, with his work, he is definitely an influence in the lives he's touched along the way. He's going to live forever. So, yeah, rest in power, David Lynch. No way to segue onto this. Let's talk about the new Spider-Man cartoon.
Mm. Speaking of David Lynch, let's talk
There's
about
no harmful way to go there, but it's next on my list. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man debuted on Disney Plus a couple of weeks ago, and I was shocked when they debuted with a couple of episodes, and I'm like, yeah, that's what every show does. Invincible's debut with 3, yeah, that's normal. And last week I was shocked when I went on and I watched the latest episode. I'm like, oh, nice, and there's an episode of this. It's a half-an-hour TV show. Love a little half-hour TV show. Just a little injection of Spider-Man into my week. And then they're like, next episode at the end of it. And I'm like, what? And then, so I'm like, oh, have a half an hour, I'll watch it. And then it's like, next episode. And I'm like, now you're just being rude. But it's Spider-Man. It's very much trying to cash in on kind of, for me, it's trying to cash in on kind of the Miles Morales buzz. It's very based in like even the animation style, although I'm going to be honest, it's not a patch on the likes of Miles Morales, but it is inspired by giving you that comic book feel on the screen.
Mm.
And there's a lot of comic heavy characters and a lot of deep cuts in here as well. If you haven't seen it, the kind of elevator pitches, it's essentially the origin story. You haven't seen a Spider-Man in that it's kind of the weird phase in the same way Batman Cape Crusader is kind of the awkward months in the first year when Batman kind of became Batman. You know, he's building his legend rather than being the legend. And that's kind of what this is. Like, they don't get into the Uncle Ben death and stuff like that. And we're kind of led to believe that this is set either in the MCU universe or a universe very close to it. Because again,
It's an
Aunt May
alternative
is, yeah.
MCU universe where
Aunt May is Aunt May from the MCU, like,
yeah,
and Peter Parker is not played by, why am I blanking on
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland? Yeah, why am I blanking on that? He's not played by Tom Holland, but he's very much drawn like Tom Holland,
Mm.
and the same type of character, but there is some crucial differences. Your thoughts on the first 5 episodes? You've got 3 more to watch now. It's over next week, so they're doing two
Yeah,
episodes,
this
3 episodes, and 2 episode finale next week. So we're nearly there, and it's just got underway. But what are your thoughts so far on Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
incredibly pleasantly surprised by it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. There's definitely a couple of issues I have with it, but I love the comic book style of it because it is different to Into the Spider-Verse, but it's more of a like a golden era kind of 50s and 60s style comic book. And I love in the opening credits, it just before the episode starts, it'll cut to like a comic book style cover featuring maybe a couple of story elements that are going to be in
Yes.
it. I think that's an excellent touch on it, but it's kind of like this alternate, like say the multiverse is a big thing in the MCU right now. So it's a different universe where instead of Tony Stark being Peter Parker's mentor, it's Norman Osborn being his mentor. And I loved that you get all these different kind of variations of the character, but some of the past MCU events are canon still in this.
Sokovia Accords are mentioned, for
Yeah,
example, and stuff like that.
and like the
Yeah,
attack on New York and all that kind of
yeah,
thing. And I think this is a better What If than What If
yeah. Ooh,
is
okay.
is my opinion on the show. I think it's what I would really want from What If, where you're going
Right.
in a completely some of the events have happened, but we're going in a completely different direction with characters, especially in the Spider-Man universe, where they can go absolutely ham with
Mm,
some of the villains and stuff in it too. Um, and yeah, I think the only thing I would say about it is Peter, I think, is one of the weakest characters in the show. I think
yeah.
Norman Osborn is fascinating. I think Lonnie's story with the gang is fascinating as well. It's the probably my favorite part of the show
And then
at the
they had the
moment.
reveal for who he is. Now, again,
Yeah,
if you're a cute enough Spider-Man watcher, you've heard the name Lonnie and you kind of know
yeah.
what's coming. But they made it official. Like, yeah, no, it's definitely this person.
It's yeah.
Yeah. So it is different.
I really like what they were doing, but it was one of those ones where like you I watched the first two, and then last week I expected one, got three, and I loved every second of it watching the
Okay.
three of them together. So yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised so far with this show.
I'm a little bit less. I'm not off on this show, but I'm a little less enthused by the delivery of this show, and I do have some problems with it. As an episode of What If, I kind of agree with that. Like, if this was one episode of What If and there's a bit of a twist and a turn on it, and they have an adventure and they give us a Spider-Man story, I'd be into it.
Mm,
Um, but it's not. It's a full series, so it has to sustain itself. And there are some things that just don't vibe with me. Like, it feels very political, but unfortunately timed at a moment where the politics that it's trying to purvey or pander towards a little bit, if I'm being honest, are going the other direction. So it feels offbeat. It feels like of another era. Um, for me, I'm like, I don't mind. I want to be very clear here in the point I make, because it is quite nuanced and can be taken out of context. I've no issue with diversifying characters and reimagining them as different genders or different races. I feel we're going to get a lot of that with the new Harry Potter show, and I'm all for it. Like, I just went to see Cursed Child in London there a few weeks ago, and they did that very, like, particularly with Hermione. There's a huge change there, but I thought it was done well. And why they did it well was it was never a thing. They were never looking for points. They were never backslapping. This is the character, this is the actor who was the best person to play Hermione. Therefore, this is Hermione. And it just deal with it. And it's like, yeah, okay, she does a great job, and I get it. And she's true to the core of Hermione. So I've no problem with that. There was a debate recently that I listened to on a podcast. I am going off on a bit of a tangent, but I swear I'll bring it back. There was a debate I listened to on a podcast where I listened to Jon Stewart's The Weekly Show podcast. And if anyone is going to question my liberal bona fides, listen to that, then just re-listen to that sentence again. I listened to Jon Stewart's podcast, right? That tells you kind of a lot about my opinions and what I agree on. But he had a debate with Governor Chris Christie on this about why is there this backlash towards DEI in America right now, okay? And it was actually something that, even though I don't agree with Chris Christie's politics and I kind of fall on the other side of the political spectrum with it, I thought it was a debate that he won, because he said the problem was there was a lot of companies that were running out of their way to do a lot of tokenistic gestures, and that made people believe that no longer merit mattered. So then you have bad faith actors, and Chris Christie is very much a heavy critic of Donald Trump, especially nowadays. You have bad faith actors like Trump and Musk who will then take advantage of that small feeling, and they'll make it feel like it's the biggest thing in the world and it's costing you everything and this is why you're miserable and so on. So while Chris Christie's like, I agree with DEI, I agree with bring me the best person for the job and remove barriers for people from other walks of life, there still should be an element of merit here. And the problem was people started doing it for point scoring, and they started doing it for the wrong reasons, and that left a bad taste in the normal person's mouth, which led to a backlash that Trump could then easily take advantage of and twist it in a horrible way. And that's why we're in the situation we're in. And I'm like, I can't disagree with anything you say, because it's true. Did you see the leak that happened a couple of years back where Marvel took a lot of shit for the demands that they put upon anyone adapting a Spider-Man character? And this is an old list, but did you see the document? They basically said Spider-Man always has to be a guy. If you're using Spider-Man as Peter Parker, he always has to be male. He must never smoke. He can't kill. He can't have sex before he's 16, can't be homosexual. And then there's an asterisk on this, unless it's in the black symbiote costume. And it's just like, what?
Oh my God.
It's like the most. And Marvel, like, obviously that does not vibe with the ethos of the Disney Corporation in the 21st century. And they took a lot of shit for it. And I constantly thought back to that document watching this show, because there are some things that are made that I'm like, and I'm not talking about Norman Osborn here. Coleman Domingo deserves his Best Actor nomination. He is fantastic as Norman Osborn. So I've no problem with changing that up. And that's like the Hermione casting, where I'm like, yes, that's just the best actor got the job. So there you go. But there are some decisions in there where I'm looking at it. Like, for example, they have Dr. Connors, for example, is reimagined as, and Lizard, for anyone who doesn't know who that is, come to mind, but is reimagined as a one-armed black woman. And I'm just, and there's no explanation in 5 episodes for why Dr. Connors is a one-armed black woman. Yeah, like, it's just if there's those kind of choices that are made that I'm like, you know, that someone in Disney said, we can tick 2 boxes here. And it's just like, what? Like, why? And I'm not saying that I believe in the Marvel rules, but I like my Spider-Man to be Spider-Man. You know, there's no MJ here. I don't mind choices like making, May young and hot. I don't mind choices like making Mary Jane into MJ and a geeky Zendaya. That just feels like a modern refresh, but they're still the same characters with still the same core. But I'm watching Spider-Man for my Spider-Man stories. Do you know what I mean? It's like having Batman, but you don't have the Penguin, the Joker, or any of the villains that are in it, and it's just a whole new set of villains or a whole new cast kind of around them. So for me, that and the release schedule, which I get it. I get what you're going for, but I find it rushed, and I find it. And I'll talk a bit about this with Invincible as well. I find batch drops of episodes to be kind of rude.
Yeah.
You've created a half an hour TV show. Part of what I see as a benefit for a half an hour TV show is I get to watch a new episode this week, but I don't spend a lot of time on it, and I get to watch multiple things. But like you're just saying, no, it's an hour and a half of your life you have to give to this. And it's like, but it's essentially a kids' TV show, but for grown-up kids like me and like X-Men was last year. And then I start to think about this versus X-Men and 97. And I'm like, this isn't even close. This isn't even scratching the surface. When I put it into that context, it's fine. I don't mean to say that I hate this, but some of the choices feel like this make me worry about the show and think about the show and feel like it's been made for the wrong reasons and with the wrong intents at heart. And there's not enough story or quality in there to get me over that feeling. The thing I felt with X-Men 97 was vision. I felt like this is, say what you want about Bo DeMeo, but he is an X-Men fucking nerd who has been writing this show in his head for 20 years. And as he's grown older and as his brain has gotten a bit sicker and more twisted, and the story has twisted with it to the point that when we're watching this as adults, we're like, this is a fucking adult TV show, which is a reboot of a show we had as kids. And it works.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like it works anywhere close to that level, but it's fine. It's new Spider-Man content, and I love Spider-Man, but it's
I
only fine.
I do think X-Men is not fair in some ways to compare it to because it's a legacy show that's ran for 5 seasons back in the 90s, and we're all
Okay.
very, very familiar with those characters. And it's a continuation on from that. And I'm not taking that away from Bodo either. Like the last series was phenomenal and was one of my favorite shows last year. But with the Doc Connors thing, it was one of those things that I barely even gave a thought to be honest, because they did other characters like Doc Ock, who looks phenomenal, like his exact comic counterpart.
Yeah.
Rhino, who looks like, do you know that meme of Me and the Boys of the 4 Spider-Man villains? And you've got Rhino there in the middle, who looks exactly the same. And there's
Yeah.
lovely little throwbacks to like I think just the older comics and the way they looked. And I was more kind of taken aback by that. They were like, oh shit, they're doing that style. That's brilliant. I agree with you though. The story, now hopefully there's 3 episodes to go now at this tonight. So the story has been a little bit slow, and I know what you mean with
Yeah.
that. But I
And it
didn't
doesn't have
feel
to,
I don't
even
think
when I
it's
compare it to, say, Batman Cape Crusader,
yeah.
that is similar in intent to this. It's a weekly adventure of the week story with a kind of overarching
Mm,
thing, but like you could in theory watch just one episode of Batman Cape Crusader. You don't have to rewatch the full series because that's the nature of this. And this is very similar in that. In that you could, if you were flicking around as a child, you could just find, Spider-Man's on class and just watch the episode for 20 minutes and you're like, oh, I have to watch the rest of it. Like, no, you could just enjoy it for what it is. It's popcorn TV. But every episode of Cape Crusader felt like, oh, this is the Harley Quinn episode. Oh, this is that episode. This is that. I couldn't name the 5 different episodes here. I couldn't tell you. Oh, this is the one. I could tell you it's the one with the boyfriend and girlfriend. That's the episode that I remember. And the first one, because it's the first one, they're setting the scene. But they're the
yeah.
2 episodes that I kind of have, like, I can decipher from the rest, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Um
I
I can't
don't hate this show. I don't
I
hate this show.
I can't argue really with that because they dropped 3 of them in a row. And
Yeah.
that's a criticism I have as well. You need to give people, and I'm kind of criticizing myself for a little bit, but with some of these shows, because I was going to binge Severance, some of these shows you're right, you do need a week or at least even if it was every couple days or something, but like dropping them all in a row like that, they blur in together and you do forget about bigger plot points when you're not mulling them over for the week.
If you're, and that's the type of show you are. Like, I think with the release schedule, you have to be self-aware of what type of show you got. Remember that Batman Cape Crusader dropped all their episodes at once, you know? And I
Yeah.
can tell you probably, I probably remember 6 out of the 10 episodes we got. You know what I mean? If I tried hard enough right now. Say Nothing is another one, my favorite show last year. And I'd have done it a different way myself, but they dropped all their episodes at once. And I remember them all individually as well. So it can work if it's strong enough, but this show is wishy-washy, you know, so the episodes are going to blur together. So maybe that's a mistake. I'm not one of those. I do prefer the big shows. Like, I'm a big proponent of the argument that I hope Stranger Things comes back and does a weekly show and lets us absorb each one
I
week by
think it will.
week. And I feel that big shows like that should. I feel that an actual binge drop doesn't suit them. But I don't feel like there's one way or the other is the right way or wrong way. It depends on the type of show. Black Mirror, you drop all the episodes at the same time. Great. I'm having a Black Mirror weekend, you know?
Mm,
It can work, but I don't feel that the drops work for this show because it is wishy-washy. Whereas if I had a week to look forward to it and I'm like, nice one, there's a half an hour of Spider-Man. I just get a little injection of Spider-Man. I feel like I'd like it more. And I feel like if they gave me more time with the show over 10 weeks or 9 weeks, then I'd feel like I'd look forward to it. You know what I mean? And maybe keep the binge drops like for the 2 episode initial drop and the 2 episode finale together. And
yeah.
then like give me 8 weeks in the middle of just a standalone episode and let me have more time with these characters. Let me get more used to them. But as it is, I'm rushing through them and I'm like, I don't know these characters and they're different and I don't know and I'm not into it. But now I'm done for the week and I don't know what I got. I don't hate the show. It's fine. If you like Spider-Man, you like it, and I recommend you watch it. But I feel like what they're going for here is done a lot better elsewhere very recently, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Yeah. That's fair. Um, I completely get like, do you feel like it's a testament to how confident they are in the show that they're dropping them like in batches?
Yeah, because they didn't do this with X-Men. And
No.
that is a like for like comparison. And that spelled confidence for the show. So there could be something to that. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
they're like, let's just get this out of the way. Let's just get the like, do you know the way sometimes they're released like a mini kind of movie where it's like I am Groot. And they'll just throw that
Yes.
out at 12 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. And they're like, there's all your episodes because no one's going to watch it, but it's something for your 4-year-old kids to watch in the background. And you'll be like, oh, it's great. I'll put it on and while I'm reading my phone. You know what I mean? And maybe there is an element of that. Maybe there's a touch of it that it is, but isn't that a shame? Like they got Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn. That should be a big fucking deal. And
I
it
think
works. That
let it
works.
cook maybe a little bit. We'll see. We'll get
Yeah,
back. I think we get
maybe.
back to it in the next 5 episodes, and maybe your views will have changed a little bit.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
really hope so because there's a lot to like here and there's a lot of potential. But again, I'm just seeing that kind of on the floor for now. I want to talk about Mythic Quest. We'll only spend a bit of time on
Mm.
this. And Mythic Quest came back. It's a comedy that we've often referred to kind of here, but we've never got a chance. We haven't been recording shows while they've had a new season. So season 4 came back. Rob McElhenney, obviously, his show made with Charlie Bird. So like a lot of Always Sunny DNA in this show, and we're huge fans of Always Sunny. By the way, just a real quick question. Have you watched the crossover episode between Always Sunny and Abbott Elementary yet?
No, I've not.
Do you watch Abbott?
I've started Abbott because I knew
Okay.
there was the crossover episode,
Okay.
and I'm enjoying Abbott. It's quite
It's
good.
really fucking good. Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm literally watching it for that crossover
Okay.
episode.
And it's good. It's worth it. It is. It's
Yeah,
good. I love Abbott. Abbott is like the thing that replaced Brooklyn Nine-Nine for like silly but really fucking funny, clever
yeah.
comedy. And Always Sunny, it is a clash of worlds, but it's one that works. And they're doing a reverse crossover episode then on the other side.
Ah,
And
brill.
even
Okay.
what I love about it is that like in the Abbott Elementary episode, there was little references to things that happened in the Always Sunny world that you're like, that's an episode. They
No
just
way.
previewed an episode. That's in the new season. I'm going to watch this back and know what that meant after the new season comes out. So it's very, very good. But a lot of Always Sunny DNA and Mythic Quest, and one that we've enjoyed. For anyone who's never watched it, it's on Apple TV as well. So you can kind of double up while you're getting stuck into Severance too. It is based on Rob McElhenney, when we meet him, is this visionary kind of video game creator, and it's a kind of sitcom style, not laughter track or anything, comedy that's set kind of in that world of kind of
like World of Warcraft,
MMORPG kind of type game, that's constantly expanding and so on. And then you've got kind of silly characters, but it's a new world, and it was always, for me, I've always found it very fresh comedy, in that it's kind of like a toned down version of Always Sunny. And what Mythic Quest does, I think, that I love, its trademark, is for one episode every season, it's so random, they decide to release the best episode of television of the year, a pure drama episode that is fantastic. And it's a real trademark, and you know it as soon as you're watching it. You're like, this is the episode, and fuck me, it's always amazing. They
and
haven't
it
done
hits
that.
you.
Yeah. And then you're like, I did not realize I cared about this character.
Why am I crying?
And then you go back to like the silly comedy the next episode, and you do care about the characters a little bit more, but also you're like, why was that show last week? What happened? It's really disorienting, but in a really fun way. It's kind of showing up, but I like it. Season 4 is back, and all the kind of crew are there. And for me, I've got a main question around this. Is it game over for Mythic Quest? Are they? Is the series at the tipping point of treading water a bit? Because for me, I don't know. I've loved all 3 seasons, and I think every episode so far has proven itself as worthwhile. And it's only now that I'm kind of getting to it where I'm like, there's so many shows on that I'm watching. We're only tipping the iceberg for shows that I'm trying to keep up with now at the moment. And with Mythic Quest, like, oh yeah, Mythic Quest, yeah, what's that as well? Because like, it's just not landing for me in the way I want. I still like the characters, I still get a laugh or two, but I'm just like, I feel like you don't have the stories left to tell, and it's just like, well, we're doing this and we enjoy doing this, so let's keep doing it. I feel like it's reached that stage of the show. But am I wrong, or how do you feel?
100% agree with you. 100%. Yeah, that's I finished the 3rd episode a couple of days ago, and was just kind of left wondering, like, is this show still good? Like, it's fine. Like you said, I love spending time with these characters, because over the last 3 seasons, you've grown to love them. And like you said, the emotional episodes that they do usually every season really kind of bond you to the characters. But they're kind of crossing this threshold of them being a little bit of, some of the characters being a parody of themselves. And they're jumping the shark, I think, with some of the characters.
Literally, there's an entire episode where they're spending like an episode with a parody of themselves. They're literally doing that. That is a plot point.
Now, unless they're being completely meta here, and we don't get it, but like,
it's like when you make a meta joke that's too real. It's like, it's like how my breath smells, and they always fart in inappropriate places. And it's like, yeah, I hate that about you.
I do think the show really suffers the loss of F. Murray Abrams as well.
Yeah,
I thought he was a great character in it, and I thought it was a bit of a heart to the show with him as well. I really liked about it, and I thought his dynamic with a lot of the characters was great. But they haven't replaced him really with anybody else. As
they
that
tried
part of the show.
with the Statler and Waldorf pair that they have in it.
And they're both very good, Always Sunny actors as well, and they're just not working for me.
It doesn't work. It doesn't, because it just, you feel the absence of that Always Sunny bite in it. You know what I mean? And especially if you don't have that connection to the characters. Now, I say this, but I don't know if the episode they just dropped today happens to be, oh, this is the best television show on the planet episode. So I may watch this tonight and just be like, Kev, oh my god, I love this show. So
I mean,
they always have that in the locker.
they're building a lot of tension up this season that we are going to get an episode, I think.
There's a
I
love
didn't make.
story in this, and I really don't want it to go
I
there.
don't want
I
it.
don't
No,
like it. I don't
it's
like it. It's really like every
forced.
fucking sitcom ever has had a version of this story, and nobody's asking for this. Nobody wants it, but you just don't have enough ideas left to sustain this. So you're like, we'll do the bullshit sitcom romance thing. Like
Yeah,
that's how that feels to me, if I'm being honest.
and like it's always sunny. I expect the characters never to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
As the show goes on, I expect them just to be
Yeah.
the same assholes. This
Double
show,
down.
yeah, but this show, there's like the Poppy and Ian they're just, they never seem to learn the emotional lesson from the emotional episode the season before. And you're like, come on, why did you give us that and then completely revert back to the way the characters used to be?
Yeah.
It's zero
It's
growth.
like if fucking Mac did. Do you remember the end of the Always Sunny season where Mac did the dance?
Yes.
And I'll always remember Frank's reference to that. And he's like, yeah, the gay thing, Mac did the dance, and I get it now. But it's like Mac did the dance, and then they just came back the next season, and Mac isn't gay, and he's really chauvinistic and obsessed with women again. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like you have to build into this actually emotionally significant moment, and
or isn't it Frank accepts that he's gay but doesn't hates the idea of him having sex with men?
Yeah, he's still he's still homophobic. Like, he's still homophobic. Like, he's just willing to tolerate Mac. Like,
yeah, but I mean that's the characters.
That's them. That's who they are.
Absolute shitbags. Like so.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, and this is what Mythic Quest has become. The show that makes you go, I can't wait until there's a new Always Sunny series.
Yeah,
because it's like close enough to Always Sunny, but really just makes you miss Always Sunny.
I'm giving this the benefit of the doubt a little bit because it's 3 episodes in, and I know it hasn't really hit its stride, but I'm gonna stay hopeful because it is Charlie Day writing it and Rob McElhenney and Megan Gantz, who all write on It's Always Sunny. So like it should be fucking good. Like it should be better than this. And I'm wondering, like, is it because they're doing Always Sunny and this? Are they kind of some of their better ideas are going into Sunny and the leftovers are going to this, maybe? But
and to be honest, I'm okay with that. Like, I definitely don't want it the other way, where this is good but Always Sunny bad. So, like, if that's the case, then your priorities are correct, and keep doing that. Like, this is but it's an easy watch, and it's not going to bother me. But like, again, it's a shame that I'm not excited about this on a week-to-week basis. It's just there, and then it won't be there, and that will probably make no difference to our lives. But who knows? Maybe they still have the amazing episode to come. So who knows? Maybe that'll make it all make sense. Guys, we're going to get to the spoiler part of the episode now. We're going to talk about Invincible season 3. So, you know, if you haven't watched Invincible and you're into comic book stories and you're into animation, do, but leave right now. Or we haven't watched season 3 yet, or any of the episodes. There's a 3-episode drop on Prime Video last week. We are going to talk with spoilers. We're not going to get full into the spoiler verse and really get into every nitty-gritty thing, but there's a few big topics we want to kind of discuss. And the first thing is the 3-episode drop, because it felt like a massive overcorrection for the criticism that they got in season 2, because obviously it had taken so long to write season 2 to the point that they had to write a scene into the season to kind of explain how difficult animation is, and they made a meta joke about lazy things that they'll do. The ironic thing is that now that they've done a season really quickly, I'm very conscious of the cheats that they told us they do. And I notice it when they do it now. But it feels like an overcorrection by Amazon. Well, not an overcorrection, like just like they're overcompensating for the criticism that they got. They brought us a season 3 within a year of season 2, and in season 4 apparently already in production, which it has been renewed, which is great to hear. 3 episodes to get us kicked off. How did that work for you, just in terms of getting that much when we're used to so like sparingly getting Invincible? And season 2, by the way, we got in 2 batches of 4 episodes 4 months apart from each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're
It's
really trying to make up for that.
it's the same thing of it's the same thing of Spider-Man in a way, where you're kind of like this. It's a little insulting to the show. I kind of feel where you're like, this deserves a week to week. It because I've all the episodes, the 3 episodes have blended into one for me.
Yeah.
Even thinking about them now, like I kind of like I know like kind of key parts, but um, and I enjoyed the hell out of the what was it nearly 2.5 hours of TV that I got, and I will always love being in
Yes.
that universe. But yeah, I would have wished they would have maybe done it two at the
Mm.
start and then done one per week. Um, Now on the flip side of that,
Mm.
I really fucking love where they're going with this season.
Yes, yes, I agree. And we were not far apart on season 2, but it made your top 10 list at the end of the year when we covered it, and it wasn't really anywhere near mine, if I'm being honest. And
Mm,
um, I think we can both agree on the fact that it didn't hit the heights of season 1, and definitely the truncated way they released it did impact our enjoyment of it, because it felt like two very quick, felt like 2 versions of this episode drop. Basically, it's just
yeah,
like, oh, it's here, it's gone, it's here, it's gone. And then it's like, oh, okay, I didn't really feel like I got to experience that properly. Prime Videos, oh yeah, I think part of it is like, an overcompensation, and also Prime Video just have a habit of doing this, and I don't like it. They did it with The Boys last season as well, and I
oh yeah,
just find it fucking rude to just presume that amount of time. It's like, watching 3 hours of this is not why I like this show. Because like, I like this show because I like to spend the exact amount of time of the average episode with these characters every week. That's what made me like it. Just give me that. And yeah, you just have to find time in your week for it as well. Like, do you know what I mean? You just have to like struggle. And then I'm struggling to find time for that and Spider-Man. Like, I'm staying up where I probably wouldn't stay up. And I'm like, I'm fucking exhausted, but there's literally no hours in the day where I can watch this. Um, and yeah, it is. It makes it into a bit of a marathon in a way that I don't want this to be a marathon. I want this to be like I get with Severance, where I'm like, I am carving out an hour. I
yeah.
am turning my phone off. I'm getting the lighting exactly right. I'm not going to do anything but pay attention to every second and absorb every bit you're going to give to me. And I do think that there's something to what you say about Spider-Man, where I think it speaks to almost a lack of confidence in the content, that you feel like one episode won't suffice, so you don't have quite enough. Now, having said that, where we differed in terms of quality in this, I thought this was a return to form. I
Yeah.
rewatched all of season 1 and season 2 in the build up, and to me there is still very much a marked difference in quality. There's a gap in quality between the two. Season 1 just still seems so bold, it's so funny, it's edgy, it's taking the form of storybook telling for adults in a new direction. It sets up things like that you're just like, I can't wait to see more. Like that fucking lion character, Battle Cat, is it, or whatever it is,
Oh yeah, yeah.
in we know from Dan, he teased when we were discussing Invincible last year that he's coming back. I can't fucking wait. Like, and everything just seems so alive and vibrant. Whereas I just feel like season 2 bogged itself down in the nitty gritty stuff we didn't want it to bog itself down, like in Mark and Amber. There's a whole episode where I'm just like, this is still so fucking long. And again, Mark and
Mm,
Adam Eve as well. The will they, won't they? And I'm like, it's not a will they, won't they? It's they will. So get to it. Like we know, like
yeah.
you're not feeling it. What I like about this is it seems like they're more focused and they're just returning to what made it. You know what I mean? Like, you may relate. I don't know. I love all of Fan Club's like kind of collection, but I get this very much with Low Blows. Okay, Low Blows has been going on a long time, 13 years now at this stage. Okay,
Yeah.
and throughout all of those 13 years, we haven't been at our peak. It hasn't been just one giant peak. There have been times where we dipped a little bit and it got hot again. We dipped a little bit and it got hot again. We had a great idea that we ran with and everyone loved it. And we had a less good idea that wasn't as hot and we had to build back up and stuff like that as well. And sometimes you have to look back. When we resurrected Low Blows last year, it was on the basis of looking back at some of the high points, and I'm like, that's who we were. That's what I want to do. That's where I want to
That's
go.
the
And
goal
you might
again.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, you might have experienced that with Fan Club. And even if it hasn't come at the expense of a down period or anything like that, sometimes you just take a break and you listen to like old stuff and you're like, oh, I want to do more of that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
fuck, that really works. That's what this feels like now. This feels like they've gone back to season one and remembered why this show was good. And there was one scene in it in particular, the storyline. It reminds me actually a bit of what Mythic Quest does, where it's like, let's present the best episode on television. The storyline with the couple that opened, I think, episode three. And
Dude, this reminded me of
fuck.
The Last of Us episode.
Yes. Yes.
It's that with done in like
Yes.
7 minutes, and you're like, I care so much about these two.
Yes. And not only that, but what I loved is that essentially they just became pawns for Mark and Oliver's story. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's done so well. We should be angry at that. And we are to a point, but in the right way. You know what I mean? It's
Mm,
like, this is a weird comparison. Parks and Recreation.
yeah.
The way season one they had Leslie Knope, and Leslie didn't really work as a main character because everyone's like, oh, shut up, Leslie. But then in season two, they came back and they understood the characters a bit more and how people reacted to them. So everyone else started saying, shut up, Leslie. And then it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how Leslie works. Yeah, exactly. Or Dee in Always Sunny, you know what I mean? When they realized,
Yeah.
no, we have to bully Dee, and that's how she's funny. Like that's how that. But like Mark and Oliver are a bit like, oh, for fuck's sake, like what? It's them again, you know what I mean? But in the right way. It's heat. It's wrestling heat, where it's
Yeah.
like they're Mark's kind of becoming a bit of a heel here, and like we're supposed to feel angry and frustrated with them, and it worked in all the right ways because the guy's story had been told, and it was really effective, and it felt like this show is telling things about superherodom in a way that I've never seen before. And it's twisting it and making me feel ways I've never felt before, because you don't think of superpowers as, you don't think of them as necessarily tied to heroes. They're more an affliction that some people may have. And that's what this story told, how actually this ruined their lives. And they were drawn back to it by having no other choice again, but despite just wanting to live a normal life. And I'm like, fuck, you're just making me think and feel whole new ways, but you told a full story in that 7 minute thing. And that's where I'm like, we're fucking back.
Yeah.
Um, and that was the moment that sealed it for me. Um, but there's a lot of promising stuff here. Mark versus Cecil seems to be the
Yeah.
direction that this is going for season three.
It's a bit of a Civil
Which,
War situation.
yeah, and at first it felt a bit out of the blue. I haven't read ahead in the comics. I've read
No,
bits of the comics. I'm
neither
kind
have
of reading behind in the comics. um, so I didn't know this was coming or this is what I was going to focus on. And if I was honest, my first reaction was, oh, I don't know. Like I just don't feel like that's been built up enough to actually justify it. And the more it sits with me, the more I'm loving it. I
I.
just needed time to get used to it. What are your thoughts on the Mark and Cecil feud, and who's teaming on? More importantly,
Oh, I was like, it's kind of the same as you. I was like, wasn't sure about it, but when they did the Cecil backstory,
mm,
um, I think that added a lot more to the Cecil and Mark kind of face off then as well, and where he was kind of like Mark when he was younger, and then eventually kind of from his the mentor, the director that left, had to become the way he is at the
mm.
moment, and I love it. I like Cecil's one of my favorite characters in the show, and I am Team Cecil all the way, 100%.
We're big Walton Goggins guys here. On
Yeah,
on
and I
what
mean,
you're
like,
watching.
and it's like also, uh, Mark, as you said, is kind of like the heel here. Like he's got his new suit and everything,
Yeah.
so it's a bit darker, and even like makes that comment I think as well when he's got it on, and so you're kind of getting this heel turn from him, and I really want to root for Cecil because I think that for what what he sacrificed of himself to do in that scene where the gas leaked out and how devastated
Yes.
he was over 17 people dying. And he was like, "That's too much to him." I was completely on board with Cecil from that moment.
And think about how good it's going to be actually. Just on a side note, over the next few weeks, we're going to get Walton Goggins in two amazing shows between this and the White Lotus. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great few weeks for Walton Goggins fans. Um,
He's the
I
best.
love characters like Cecil, and I agree with them. I think, and this is a show, and this is something that the show tells really well. Um, there's a scene that stood out to me, and it stood out when I rewatched it before I knew the direction it was going. But actually, it's more prescient because of the direction it's gone. Do you remember Mark fought the Viltrumite, and this is what led to his breakup with Amber? He fought the
Mm.
Viltrumite who threatened Amber, and Cecil is in his ear like, just fucking say the words. And Mark has a touch of the Jon Snow's. Like, have you ever thought to fucking lie for once? But he's like, I have to be honest, and it's like, oh, fuck off. Like, and to me, one thing I like about deconstructing the idea of heroism that we've grown up on is that it's kind of easy to be a superhero. You know what I mean? Superheroes in the real world are sanctimonious. You know what I mean? They're people who are like, I have to do the right thing, but really, the right thing is generally more based around their ego and their feeling that they're good and they have to be right, than actually being what's helpful to mankind. And the fact that Mark could call off the attack from this Viltrumite on Earth that had killed people by just
Mm.
lying, but wouldn't give her that because of his own personal pride and his grudge with his dad. Like, it's very much the hero move to not just lie, but he's wrong. Whereas Cecil is the real hero, and the real heroes are like, I don't know, maybe I just view myself that way and kind of like that's what I'd like to believe because that's my personality. Where it's like, you mightn't like this decision, but I know it's the fucking right decision, and I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna make it because I know it's the right thing to do. And if it pisses people off, fine, fuck it. Like, but I
Yeah,
know I'm right here. And that to me is the more heroic decision. So I'm totally Team Cecil here. And I love the fact that the show isn't afraid to give that. But what I also love about Mark is that he is that type of great heel who he believes he's so right. And
yeah,
everyone around him is just validating him. And it winds me the fuck up where Adam Eve is just like, how dare he? That's disgusting. And even the Guardians are kind of like, I can't believe Cecil did that. And I'm like, oh, he's so on his fucking high horse and he's so fucking wrong. And we've all known little shit like teenagers like that, where you're like, are you gonna get him talking that way? And like they're just getting more and more pumped up on their fucking ego and needing to believe that they're right. And he's such a little shit that he deserves it. But he is ultimately not even the biggest threat in the immediate show universe and even in this season, as we've learned a lot about Oliver, who we were promised last season is going to grow up fast, and fuck me, he's growing up fast.
mm.
And we really saw Oliver now. There's traces of Omni-Man in him, but there also just seems to be like a psychopath side to him that he just can't think of the consequences for what he does. He can't empathize with people. He doesn't see any issue with killing and the likes. And also, he killed the fucking Mauler twins.
Yeah.
Tell me they're coming back. Like, I know I didn't like when Dan would give away spoilers about Invincible on here, but I almost need to call him up and just be like, tell me the Mauler twins are going to be back. I don't care if it's a spoiler. I need them back in this show. I really hope that's not the last we've seen the Mauler twins. And if it is, fuck that Oliver kid. Um,
Yeah.
but what are your thoughts about Oliver and what the hell are they supposed to do with him? Like, for me, I'm like, again, I'm going to make the Cecil call here. Kill the child. You need to kill the baby. No, so
I
yeah,
think get that kid off planet because
yeah,
like he's just now the thing is as well though he's at the end of the day still just a kid who probably has maybe like destructive. If there was always that kid in class who was a bit more kind of rowdy than the others,
yeah. The
and
guy that
would
picked the fucking legs off spiders, like he's
yeah.
that kid. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, I also actually just before I go into it, shout out to the little kid actor that played him. I thought he was brilliant as well.
Yes,
He's really really good. Um, but yeah, he's he's definitely turning into kind of Omni-Man in a way.
yeah.
And I don't. I don't know where they're gonna go with this because it's either gonna end absolutely fucking tragically, where Oliver does die,
Mm.
or he's gonna do something so unthinkable that maybe. Ugh. I'm thinking Omni-Man will obviously eventually return and maybe father him a bit
I don't know.
in his Omni-Man way.
I think what's going to happen with Oliver is obviously the Viltrumites are like, we need Mark as a Viltrumite to take Omni-Man's spot here. I think Oliver is going to be the person who steps up and he's like, yeah, sounds good. Take over the world. Yeah, I'll
Ooh,
do it. So as he,
yeah,
and he, we know that he's growing and getting stronger. So by the end of season 3, he could be the same kind of size and power as Mark. And obviously we see that he has been holding back. Like when he thinks nobody's watching, he can just decimate the Mauler twins. Remember the Mauler twins made mincemeat of Mark in like the first episode of season 2. Like they can go. So power scaling wise, Oliver being able to just destroy and kill both of them, that's meaningful. You know, they destroyed the Guardians here. Like the Guardians were no match for the Mauler twins here, but Oliver could kill them without even barely blinking. And the only reason that he did so was because he thought nobody was watching, but then the Immortal was, and then Mark came back and he's like, "What the
yeah.
fuck?" And then Cecil had to step in.
I think they underestimated him though, the Mauler twins.
Yeah,
They're like, he's just a kid. And they just
yeah,
let their
yeah,
guard down a bit.
maybe.
But speaking of kind of power, it does annoy me a little bit that Mark isn't kicking the shit out of the Maulers because of that big training montage, and they're like, oh, his strength's up 200% and his fitness and his
Yes,
endurance and all this stuff. And they did a huge training montage to was the Chemical Brothers Go, which is an absolute
yes,
fucking great needle drop.
banger.
Um, and they spent all this time doing this, and then Mark's still getting the absolute shit kicked out of him all the time.
I think part of that though, and we have to infer this a bit. I don't think the show has done enough to tell us this, but I think a part of that is Mark always speaks about, and he spoke about in these episodes, like when we meet Duplicate's brother, he still does hold back.
Yeah,
Like, you
fair.
know,
Yeah,
again, consider that the last episodes of season 2 was I Thought You Were Stronger.
yeah.
So like that's kind of the takeaway that he had. So I feel Mark holds back quite a lot. But I also agree, like he's, you know, they're threatening the entire world's safety and they're also like hitting your little brother. Like that is the point where you can let go. And they've established through that montage that they believe he can now go toe to toe with the Viltrumite that we met last season. So we need to
Mm,
see a bit of that to believe
yeah.
it. And that would have been an ideal chance to do it. But obviously, it was a setup for Oliver to do it. I think Mark and Cecil, Oliver is the thing that gets Mark and Cecil back together. And Omni Man is going to be in there, but I think Oliver is joining Team Viltrum. I think that's for me, that's where it's going. Um,
Yeah.
is there any aspects of the season that aren't working for you so far, or you want to see more of?
Ooh. I want to see more of Nolan and Alan because that little bit we
Yes.
got as a post credits was fucking hilarious. Actually, do you
Yes.
know what was great is um Oliver he was getting like given out to by what's the mother's name again? Um oh fuck, I'm blanking. But anyway, he's
Debbie.
get Debbie and he's getting given out to her by her. She's like, stop flying in the house, and he's just like looking at her and just flying real slowly towards the
Yeah,
camera. It's
it's
such
like
a
fucking, it's like Drax being like, I am
yeah.
imperceptible.
That was such a
Yeah,
lovely little moment that I really appreciated.
it's such a yeah, I agree with that. It's such a teenage moment where it's like testing the boundaries
Yeah.
down to the centimeter.
So
Yeah, it is
I
very
do
good.
love that. I'm the Amber, not Amber, the Mark and uh fuck, blanket
Adam
again.
Eve.
Adam Eve.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a little weak for me.
Yeah. I'm just like, you know, it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, just get on with it. Do you know
Yeah.
when like, you know, you have that sitcom thing and the people eventually get together, but like it's the modern sitcom thing where it's like, we know, you know, they're going to get together. So we're just going to get them together like Jake and Amy. And you're
Yeah.
like, can you just be a couple? Like, I don't care about, I know you're going to be a couple. So can you just be a couple? Because I don't care. Can that just be the dynamic where you're together and you fight together and stuff like that? You don't need to make a big thing of it. There doesn't need to be scenes or build. We don't care what Amber's thoughts on the relationship are. I get the way you feel you need to include it because you probably plan on having Amber back in some form, but like Yeah, I don't care about watching their relationship play out. I'm like, just
And
be a
that
couple. Just
that
have
and
all that happen in the background. Have like they're coming out of the cinema and they're like, wasn't that a good movie? And then a villain flies by and they're like, oh, I guess we got to save the day. You know what I mean?
exactly. I thought
Yeah.
the drama that they had with them when he's saying the alternative universe, Adam Eve was saying, oh, when she's like 40 and she still
Yeah.
regrets everything. That was such a fucking pointless arc.
Yeah.
I didn't
It's
think it
just
added
yeah.
anything. Like it
Yeah,
was,
like just tension for the sake of it. And she's like, no. And I'm like, no, we know
yeah.
you're going to forgive him for this. Something
It's
bad's
like,
going to happen to him and you're going to forgive him. We know.
yeah. I will always just want more Rex in my life. I think he's been phenomenal this
Yes.
season with some of
Yes.
his quips.
Yeah.
With his baby steps line of every time like he's insulting. He's kind of still doing it, but in a slightly nicer way.
Yeah, he does it and he says, but nice now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I'm glad he didn't lose that edge to his character. Like, I don't want to see neutered Rex. Like, I want to see Rex be the Rex Bell that I like. But
Yeah.
it's like when a wrestler gets over as like a really charismatic heel character, and you're like, I really hope now that he's a good guy, it doesn't lose all the cool things that I liked about him as a bad guy. And they kept out those elements of Rex. I think there's a lot to look forward to. I think I'm back in, and maybe we'll do a full catch up at the end of the season.
Sounds good. Um,
Okay.
Only other thing I really want though is just some more weird villains. Like you said,
Yes.
Battle Cat or whatever the fuck his name is was
Yeah.
class. Give me
Yeah.
some of that
Throw,
shit.
throw some more in, but also like,
Oh,
see,
also
it's
I
tough.
wanted I want to hear more or see more, and hopefully they go into it of your man is it DA who the guy who turned
Yes.
people into robots or kind of
I
cyborg
do
things.
want that, but what I don't want is the story of your man he turned into a robot. Like,
No.
get that over with. First scene of the next episode will be him trying to kill your man, and your man rips his head off. And
Oh,
yeah,
damn.
but like that's probably where it's going. That's where this
Yeah.
show will take that story. So we know you don't need to do a full episode based around this character. We know where it's going. Same with Adam Even, and I'm fine with it. And
Yeah.
that'd be cool. But just we know. So get to it. Like just do it. And we let us live with the characters because it will be interesting with Mark's best friend and how does he react and what does that make him become and how does that make him feel about Mark. You shouldn't have told him about that and so on because Mark even reflected on the fact I'm actually selling myself more on this story as I talk about it. But yeah, I just don't want a full episode of the 8 that we get to be built around that and that to be done. Even
Yeah.
in terms of, I do want more. I do like the way this world seems so open and vast and
Yeah.
anyone can come in at any stage. And even like, again, through the likes of that episode, we saw like how, who did we see again? We saw the person that organized that attack. The bad
Oh,
guy, do you
we
know?
saw Angstrom at the end.
We saw Angstrom at the end too. No, but the guy who organized the attack on Mark in season 1, where Mark got the shit
Oh,
kicked out of him by
Darkwing.
Vodka. Darkwing, yeah. No, not Darkwing,
No.
but yeah, he's also cool. Um, no, do you remember the mob boss? Like he presented as he was getting Mark to attack the mob boss, but actually he was the mob boss in that
Oh,
episode.
shoot. Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we saw him briefly. I can't
Very
remember the name for
briefly,
the
yeah.
life of me. But like, yeah, I want to see more of those kind of things. But like, I want them to play like they did the start of the episode. They're the side villains we see our heroes beating up. But
Mm,
I don't want them to stall more on Viltrum. I don't want a 2 episode arc set in Mars where they have a side mission again, which takes up 2 episodes of plot here. Because I want to see the Viltrumite story start to accelerate a bit as well. I think
yeah.
if we don't end the season with the Viltrum War, the first blow has been struck in the war between Viltrum and Earth. If we don't end at least there by the end of the season, I'm like, you're just fucking around. Like, get to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But this show does move at a very quick pace, so I
It
think
is like
I don't.
those first three episodes packed so much story. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think I'm going to be disappointed in
no.
this. I think
Also,
yeah,
there
they're
was
doing the thing.
a couple of shots of animation in this were absolutely spectacular, especially in the fight in the White Room with Cecil and he had all the cyborgs.
Yes.
There's one shot Mark did of like just gut punching the one of the cyborgs into oblivion, and it did a freeze frame for like 1 or 2 seconds on the shot, and then played again.
Yeah.
It was absolutely incredible looking.
Yeah.
And I hope they do more of that kind of stuff as well. Just really stylized violence, I suppose, in it as well. Be
Yeah,
great.
the animation, it's not the best animation you've ever seen, but the highs are really high.
Yeah.
Like they really apportion the budget to the moments that matter, and then they
Yeah.
skimp on other things,
Yeah.
and they use a lot of the shortcuts that they told us they use, and you can't help notice now quite regularly, infuriatingly. But the highs are high still, and again, it's nowhere near unwatchable in the way some other modern animation is. It's really fun and really beautiful to watch,
And
especially when they're kind of at that peak.
the insertion of the Invincible title card will never ever get old. It's
Yeah,
still amazing every time it happens.
yeah.
I love it.
Although I did one of my favorite things from season two, rewatching it, was the first season where they're like, "It's like he's invincible," and they just kept saying it. But they paused every time before
Yeah.
they said it. We definitely catch up. We have a lot to
Yeah.
discuss, and I don't think we've even scratched the iceberg. I think we could probably go on this for another hour or two. But we'll catch up at the end of the series anyway. And who knows? Maybe you'll have caught up with Severance then, and we'll do a double up and a catch up then. We'll see how we get on.
Yeah, we could do Spider-Man, Severance, this Mythic Quest.
Yes.
We have a lot of stuff to finish.
Loads to discuss, and there's going to be even more coming out. Kev, end the plug, anything going on in your world, and if you've nothing to plug, you can just talk about something that you're into or you want to shout out.
Well, we're going to be announcing some shows pretty soon in April,
Ooh.
around Ireland as well. So keep an eye on our socials for that, for Fan Club.
Fan Club.
Oh, I'm also watching a show we didn't get to discuss it called Common Side Effects.
Yes.
It's on the Channel 4 app at the moment. It's an Adult Swim show. Big ol' recommend for me. Obviously we'll maybe chat about that at a different time, but if you're looking for something animated and kind of conspiracy theory-ish, it's excellent. Really, really good.
You're selling me well.
Mm.
Good stuff, Kev. Always a pleasure. At Kev Fan Club on socials. We'll tag him in all the mentions here as well. In the meantime, we'll be back very shortly on page 180. I don't actually know what the next show we have coming up is. But we have loads to come over the next few months. The Last of Us is going to be back. Ooh, Andor is going to be back at the same time. Holy fuck.
Is that the same time?
Same time, April.
Oh my God.
Mark the fucking calendar. You're not going to see me except for WrestleMania. We're going to have info up at WrestleMania with low blows very shortly as well. Special announcement we made on the night of the Royal Rumble. I haven't talked about it publicly because it was just an excuse for people who were there. For the first time ever in Woolshed, we were getting the big question we got asked last year was, yeah, you're doing WrestleMania Saturday, so what's the story with next year? Well, I can confirm we are doing WrestleMania Saturday again in Woolshed, and I cannot wait for it. And we're doing WrestleMania Sunday. We're doing a full weekend. It's going to be fucking class. I cannot wait. Tickets will be available soon. And we have Kev, like, I spend a year preparing for WrestleMania, the WrestleMania party. And like, I have like my ideas. Oh, we'll do that for Mania. We'll do that for Mania. We'll do that for Mania. But then you're like, but that person has to say yes, or this thing has to work out. And all of the things are happening. Everyone's
Oh my
saying
God,
yes.
amazing.
All the things are happening, and I'm like, I now have to put in a calendar how I'm going to break this all down. So it's really cool. There's loads going on. I cannot wait. So keep your eye out for that. We'll be back very shortly on page 180. But until next time, he's been Kev Keen of Fan Club. I've been Ger Leggett of Just Dublin and General Life. This has been page 180. And why are you a child again?